Well, we just gonna get right into it. This is the Millionaire Talk Show. Charles Oglesby, also known as Todd Millionaire, founder and director of the Todd Capital Investment Club, founder of the Todd Capital Options Community, founder of the best-selling Options course, and the $1 Million Mastermind. We're doing some really cool things in that mastermind, man. I'm excited because giving a lot of people autonomy, and I found that sometimes that's the best way to build something great is to have everybody's input. And then this amazing thing just emerges. It's what we did with the options community. And it's what we're seeking to do with this mastermind. I don't want people just to be marching to the drum of Todd Billy. I want them to put their input, things that they see that can add value, man. That's how it takes them to the next level. So excited for what we're building there. Speaking of the mastermind, we had this brother here speak last week. Everybody loved the presentation. Everybody loved the information. They're inspired. We have been getting out there, creating products, getting these webinars going and just building out that funnel. But the brother has so much information, so much knowledge that we had to bring him back to the organization and continue to allow him to tell his story, but also get some game that you guys can execute on. And hopefully, you guys can reach out to him, work with him, because he's doing some crazy things with his clients. From what I've been seeing him post on the timeline, he's helping people make the money that these jobs ain't paying us. And that's always inspiring to see. Because one thing to make money for yourself, it's another when you start sharing the success of people that you're working with, you start catching a lot of people's attention. So really cool. This brother goes by the name of George Pitts. He is an online business brand builder. I don't have an actual bio for him, but just I know he had some success in the e-com space. And he's continued that in this new space. Now he's fully self-employed. At one point in time, he was working the job and running the business. He had to step away. He was like, nah, fam, let me just run this business and see what I can create. So we're going to dig into his story, but welcome to the show, man.
Man, appreciate you for having me on. How you feeling?
Good. It's Friday, and what's cool is, usually I'm winding down. And, I saw the meeting pop up on my calendar. I was like, let's get it, man. So I'm motivated. I'm inspired. Because it's like sometimes when you work by yourself and for yourself, you don't really get to interact with a lot of people. So it's tough to be pushed by other people. And so you pushed me today because I was chilling.
That's the name of the game, man. I know exactly what you're talking about because, that's one of the things about entrepreneurship. If you're not one of those people that can, really self-motivate, you won't get nothing done. So 100%.
So we always ask people, first we're going to ask you who you are and where you from.
Yeah, man. So my name is George Pitts. I'm an online business strategist. I'm from Oklahoma City. What I do is I teach coaches and content creators how to turn their knowledge into profits with digital products, showing them how to scale it through funnels and systems so they can spend less time working in the business as an employee and more time working on the business as a CEO. So, man, that's what I love doing. This online space is giving us opportunities to do what we thought only people that didn't look like us do. And, man, I'm taking full advantage of it.
So what was life like growing up? Where are you from? And what was life like in the early years of George Pitts?
Yeah, man. So, I'm from a small town called Enid. It's just a small town here in Oklahoma. And growing up, man, I've always kind of had that entrepreneurship bug. For me, one of the biggest things was, I always had like some kind of a side thing. So, I cut yards when I was a kid. And I remember one time I was cutting this person's yard. I had a whole bunch of yards in my neighborhood. And they, in my area, they had all, wire fences. They didn't have the wood fences. So, man, this grass was like really high one time that I was cutting. And I couldn't see that the fence underneath where this lady's like dog was like digging out all the time. The fence was like kind of like underneath the grass, but it was like pointed up. So I went over it and I didn't see it. And it bent the blade on my lawnmower. So we had to take it to this place, and there wasn't no Amazon or nothing like that back then. When they ordered parts, man, that was like a 30, 45 day thing. So I had all these lines and stuff, man. So what I ended up doing was there was a couple kids in my neighborhoods who had lawnmowers. So I was getting paid like $20 for a line and $25 if I weed eated. So I was paying them like $15 to mow them, and I was keeping 10. And that's kind of how I kept my business going. And so once I got my lawnmower back, I was like, man, I got people to mow lawns for me. I got like 8 yards, which was, you know what I'm saying, pretty good. I was like, let me go to some of these other streets around my neighborhood and ask them. So I went on there, man, and ended up getting like 20 some odd lawns. And then I had some guys mowing some lawns. I was mowing some. And man, I was doing about at the time like $200 a week, which is a lot of money for a 13-year-old in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? And man, it's just always been in me.
It's interesting because, and I found this out, it's like when you get out of the weeds of running your business, it allows you to grow your business, which allows you to make more money. And you learn that at a very young age. So that's, I think, pretty cool. So you make your way into college and you have a career. What was that career life like for you?
Man, well, I went to school. I didn't finish when I finally went into my career. Ended up getting married and to my wife now. And I went to work for, I was in a lot of, different odds and end jobs, but then I got into that whole call center thing. And if you've never been in the call center field, once you get in, it's like a funnel. You work at almost every call center that's available until you just pop out and there's no more call centers to work at. And I didn't want to do that because I was seeing people in my orientations. They were in their 50s and 60s. They worked for this call center. They worked for AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile. They worked for all of them. And they're like in their, they're like, I just need to get 5 more years so I can retire. They're like in their 60s, barely can move, chain smokers. It was just like stuff like that. So I ended up getting out of that space, man, and got a contract with a large hotel chain in their service, in their financial service center here. And so I got on a contract to do some help desk stuff, which is like IT, where you're taking calls for support. And when my contract was up, they were like, yo, we want you to come and work for us. This was my first story of like really what shaped me and molded me to where I am today. But probably the second one, but it's, as an adult, it's probably my first. But so I went and worked for them, never got any formal training. They're like, we want you to come work in our payroll department. We'll give you benefits. You're going to get a $3 an hour raise. You don't pay any money for benefits. And this is a really dope hotel chain. They're like, your hotels are $25 as an employee. I'm like, yo, I'm in. These are like $200 a night hotels. And so I worked this job and I'm in there for about a month and a half. And all my hotels were all the Hawaii hotels. So I worked 3 to 11 because that was 8 to 5 in Hawaii. But some people's paychecks were not right. Some people's child supports wasn't getting taken out because it's like a lot that goes into payroll. So I went to my director and I was like, yo, I'm like messing up. Like I'm doing good, but I need training. Like I want to be better at this job. I want to be long-term. Like I'm trying to be a good employee, right? So she looks me in my face and was like, you know what? I'm glad you did this. I'm glad you told us. This is why we hired you, because you're transparent and you're someone that's honest. We're going to get you all the training you need. The next day I come in, they sit me with someone, I work with them. It felt like my first day of work again. It was dope. And so my supervisor was like, George, are you getting ready to leave? And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, walk me out. And I was like, okay. So she's like, hey, I need to stop by. She was like, yo, can we stop by HR? I need to drop some papers off real quick. I was like, sure. So I sit down and then the HR director comes out. She's like, Mr. Pitts, are you ready? I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just waiting on such and such. And she's like, she kind of looked like, I mean, are you ready so we can have this discussion? I was like, what discussion? And she's just looking at me all weird. So she finally kind of motions me to come in. So I walk into her office and sit down and she's like, so I understand you guys decided to part ways. I said, what? And she's like, I understand that you guys came up with a mutual agreement that it's no longer a good fit. You're going to pursue another opportunity. And they agreed and all this and that. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And so she had this look on her face like, yo, they just set me up. Like not me, but her. Like they just set me up to be the bad person. They didn't even, So she took a deep breath and she leaned forward. She's like, Mr. Pitts, we can say this was just a big mistake. You can come back tomorrow and they can literally fire you. The Oklahoma's an at-will state. We can get rid of you for whatever you want. So I tell you what, you can either come back and say, I don't know what you guys meant by this, but I want to be here, and roll the dice that they won't just fire you. Or you could go ahead and take this resignation. We'll give you 1 extra paycheck and you'll be available for future opportunities if something opens up. And I'm like, what just happened? This is 2 weeks before Christmas, December 15th, 2009. I'll never forget it. And ever since then, man, I've had a sour taste in my mouth because I had to go home as a newlywed and tell my wife, I lost my job 2 weeks before Christmas. I don't know what we're going to do. And we're living paycheck to paycheck at this time. And that has stuck with me ever since then.
It's I kind of laughed a little bit because as you were going through the story, I remember this story because you told that story when we were in Arkansas, and I got a chance to listen to it differently. You know, sometimes you hear something twice, you hear different things. And what was interesting to me is sometimes when you're working a job, it's like you kind of don't want to say that you don't maybe know things because you don't want them to think that maybe you shouldn't be working there, if that makes sense. So it's like you kind of like play it, even if you're not doing well, you kind of play along with it because it's like you don't want them to be like, oh well, he doesn't know what he's doing. Let's get him out of here, because I think people have had that experience before. But then I'm wondering, like, why did they let you go? Like, why? What was the whole point of that? Did you just expose the flaw in their system, or what happened?
You know, that's a good question, man. I still don't know to this day. Whenever they train you there, they give you at that time, they gave you a big workbook and you're just supposed to flip through it and go through it. It's got screenshots and it's supposed to train you on how to use this system, how to do people's payroll and get people paid every 2 weeks. There's no one sitting down with you. There's no formal computer training. It's just this binder that you just flip through and it tells you supposedly what to do. And it's funny because whenever I got let go and I was telling the HR person about it, she was like, they're still using that same binder training, huh? And then she kind of laughed and just kind of shook her head like, wow. But it's funny because about a month later, I heard that the director that let me go, they let her go about a month after that. So it was pretty interesting, man. But yeah, it was just, to me, I think it was a flaw in the system, but it was one of those things where they were just like, we don't want to train anybody. We just want people to hit the ground running. But I think, honestly, it was one of those places where if you got it, good. If you didn't, we'll just keep hiring someone till they did. I don't think really no one, even some of the supervisors really didn't know what they were doing. So they were intimidated by the whole thing of trying to teach somebody else to do something that they didn't know how to do.
But the problem is you can ruin somebody's life in the process of putting people through an imperfect system. And that's one of the things I don't like about entrepreneurship. I was over in downtown LA about a month ago, and I was at a bank branch that I was working at, and things were slow. We were launching a brand new initiative with this bank, and it was just moving slow. And they're looking at you like, oh, why is it moving slow? Why is it not working out? And then you come back years later, and the manager who was working there, she's gone. And now the entire branch is closed down. Like literally, the bank there is no more. The bank still exists in downtown LA, but not on that block, because downtown LA is a block by block kind of area. If you're on this street, it's good. On this street, it's good. If you go anyway this way, it's not that great of an area. And my problem with that is psychologically it messes with us. Our confidence can kind of be impacted, but in a lot of ways, it does light a fire under us, and it lit a fire under you. How old were you when this happened, and where did you kind of go from there? Where did your career go once you realize like these jobs ain't loyal?
I was 24 at the time, 24, 25. And so if you ever lost a job, man, during the holidays, you're not going to find a job until like February, because everybody's taking off work. They're off for the rest of the holidays. When they come back, they're going to spend most of January getting caught up on emails and all that other stuff. Right. So, and it happened just like that. I was applying everywhere from December 16th to the time I got a job in February of next year. And I'll never forget it, man. What it was for me was my wife started picking up extra shifts. She worked at a hospital as a nursing assistant. She was picking up all these shifts, and then she signed up with this agency, and I'm sitting up here trying to get a job. So I ended up getting like a work at home job doing customer service and stuff for a little bit. And one of the things I remember saying whenever I got a full-time job in February, which was for a company I worked for about 11 years before I left and went into full-time entrepreneurship, I said, I'll never let another company dictate how I take care of my family 100% financially. I'll never do it again. I said, every penny that I get that's disposable, that we don't need for living expenses or whatever, I will put it towards something to make me money. And my thing at the time was, I'll put it into, whatever, I didn't care. And so I joined MLMs. I did a lot of different things. People are always talking about, I don't want to do this because I don't want to lose money. And then they just don't do anything. I did everything. I joined multiple MLMs. I joined, several different, just all kind of stuff, man. You name it, I was doing it. And, the biggest thing for me was understanding that the disposable income I have is what was going to be my path to get to the income that I didn't have. The income that I had at the time was $65,000 a year at that time. That wasn't mine. It was someone that they were temporarily giving it to me until they decided they didn't want to write that check anymore. So I never claimed anybody else's income. If I got paid really good money, when I left my job, I was making six figures, but that wasn't my money. The money that was mine was the money I was bringing in from my online business. So
that's a bar.
Yeah. So the thing is that whenever you ask the question, like, how do I know these jobs aren't loyal? It's just that one thing, whenever I left. So I was like, I can't claim income of a check that I don't sign. Right. It's just renting. So you can give me the income and I'll accept it. I'll do the work, but I know it's not, deep down inside, it's not mine. Because if I can't say that I want to get this income for the next 20 years and no one else can make, and I can't make the decision on, I can keep getting it for 20 years, it's not my money. So,
that's true.
Once I got into, that job and I started making disposable income, I went all in on just finding something that was going to allow me to produce more income than what I was getting from that job. And that's what I did for about 7 years straight.
To a certain extent, I feel like those experiences are kind of necessary because it's very difficult to make that sacrifice until you felt that pain. Because sacrifice is painful. And so then you start weighing pain. It's like, okay, would I rather feel the pain of sacrifice or feel the pain of not being able to find a job for 3 months, feeling like everything you lost? Because I tell people that when you lose a job, it's not that you just lost a job. Most people live in paycheck to paycheck. And so now your entire life becomes in question. Like, how am I going to keep a roof over my head? How am I going to eat? How am I going to do all these different things? How am I going to put gas in my car? And that is scary. And that fear is going to push you to do the things that are uncomfortable, inconvenient, that are boring, and that take a long time. And so I think that's very interesting because your story, while I would say it's not uncommon for a lot of people, the response is uncommon. A lot of people just complain. You did something about it. You said you did this for 7 years. So when did you start to see some like real success, and what did that look like?
So my third year is when I started seeing success. So I was doing all these different things. And so I came across a website called Warrior Forum, which is a website for internet marketers. The guy that created EverWebinar, Casey Zeman, Russell Brunson was on there. Like all these people that we hear about now, they were all on this website. And they were selling courses back then, but they called them virtual seminar. It was a different word they used for them, but they were courses. And so I bought this course from this one guy that was basically, it was called WordPress Madness. And it was basically where it was teaching you how to build WordPress sites with themes and how you could pump out 7 websites in 7 days. So I took this course, man, started learning it. And just like what I do with every course, I figure out how to reverse engineer it. So he was like, yeah, what you could do is open up your Yellow Pages, call, businesses and offer to do a website for them. So I did that for a couple of days and I was like, man, this sucks. So what I did was I reverse engineered it. At the time, Craigslist was hot. And so I got on Craigslist and I started going to the services page and I would go on there and look for places that made posts that didn't have a website. So I'm seeing these attorneys that were like, yo, we're divorce attorneys, we're family law attorneys. So I would call them and be like, hey, I'm looking to divorce my wife or something like that. Do you have a website? I'm a website guy, so I like to look at the information online I can go to. And he'd be like, they would be like, no, we don't have a website, but what questions do you have? And I was like, well, I'm on lunch break, so I got to get back in, but that's why I asked for a website. I build websites, so I'm just big on websites. Oh, really? Well, we don't have one, but I tell you what, if you call me back at 4, I'd love to talk to you more about your situation, but also talk to you about how you can help us. And I was doing about 100 calls a week. And I remember I finally got my first client. She came out, she was in Norman, which was about 45 minutes from where I worked. I took off that day. drove out to her office, gave this whole spiel. She's sitting there at this conference room table and she's like looking at her watch, she's looking at her phone, and she's like, you could tell by her body language she didn't want to be there. So she took a deep breath. She's like, Mr. Pitts, stop. She's like, yeah. She's like, I've got a lot of things I got to do today. How much would you charge me to build a website? And I said, well, it depends. And I started, going in because I got nervous. I wasn't expecting that. And she was just like, oh God. She pulls out her purse. She pulls out her checkbook. She's like, tell me right now, how much would you charge me to build a website? I just want a home page that says what I do. I want an about me page saying where I went to school. I want the list of services I offer and a place for people to contact me. How much? And I said, $600. And she said, that's it? Here you go. Talk to my paralegal. She'll give you all the details that you need. I really got to go. And that was the first check I ever got. I finished her website in about a week. And literally this lady started referring me to all these attorneys. And I was getting so many websites that I was working 6 a.m. to 2:30. I'd get home at 3:15. I'd cook dinner because my wife wouldn't be on until 5 and put it in the oven. And I'd be in the second bedroom of our apartment from like 5 in the evening to like midnight building websites. And I was making more money building websites than I was in my 9 to 5. And I started outsourcing it to people over in Bangladesh and stuff, having them build it. Whatever they didn't do or the client wanted updated, I would just do it myself. So now I'm charging about $600-700 for a website. I'm paying $150 to get it built, and I'm keeping the rest. And I did that for quite a while. And, that was my first foray into the online space. And when I started making money online, I was like, wow, I got addicted. And I was all in at that point.
So it's interesting because you learned all this from a course, but you had to kind of flip the course on its head. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to take the information and then you have to get creative with it because the information is valuable, but you can be competing in a red sea at that moment because everybody's bought the course, but the information is still valuable. So I thought that was really cool. Recently, you've had a lot of success with online courses. Can you talk to us about that experience?
Yeah, man. The first, it's funny because I bought several courses off of this Warrior Forum site, like SEO, internet marketing, backlinks, doing all these services for websites. And I never thought about creating my own. I'm just learning all this stuff and just learning how to implement it and make money from it. So this was probably back in 2011, maybe 12. So in 2016, we went to this little Friendsgiving thing and we were frying a turkey. And so one of my friends was like, yo, hold the phone and hold this up while I put this turkey in the grease. And I was like, okay. And I picked it up and I'm looking, I was like, what is this? There's somebody saying they're from India. There's someone saying they're from Africa. Someone saying they're from Canada. So, oh, it's this app called Periscope. Just keep it on me. And I'm seeing all these people like going back and forth with it and stuff. So I was like intrigued by it because like I'm just live streaming this whole thing and all these people from all over the world are coming in talking about, oh, that's so cool. What's fried turkey? And, bonjour from France. And I'm like, yo, this is dope. So anyway, fast forward, man, I'm on the app. I'm spending, I'm just going into different people's stuff, different countries, because I just want to see how people are living and what they're doing, what they're saying. So I finally decided to get on there. At the time, I just finished a course on e-commerce and I was selling on eBay at the time on the side. And so that was the thing I was doing in addition to websites. And so I just decided to go live one day and people started coming in and I'm showing like all these jerseys I got, all these iPhone covers and chargers. People like, where are you getting all this stuff? Are you still jacking trucks, And I'm like, nah, I import it in from overseas and I sell it. And then people started saying, well, do you do coaching? Do you have courses? I'm like, I don't know. I don't do any of that stuff. Like, this is my side business. And they're like, well, how much would you charge to teach me that? Like people started asking me. And so I was getting all these questions all the time as I was going live, like, yo, we really want to learn this. So I started following people that did that. And so fast forward, man, I finally hired a coach, right? He was a sales coach. And I reached out to him. I was like, look, I don't think I'll have a problem with sales. I just need to learn how to do what you do. How do I like make my stuff where people can pay me and I don't have to ask them to PayPal me or send me a Western Union? Because I didn't know about systems or any of that stuff. And he was just like, no one's ever asked me to teach them how to coach, but let me think about it. And the next day he reached out and he's like, yeah, I'll help you. So we built my first course, and it was a live course. I didn't do it pre-recorded. And I kid you not, man, I listed the course for $97. I had 3 people sign up, and I was like ecstatic. And he reached out to me. He's like, yo, how's your course sales going? This was like the same day. I was like, yeah, I just opened it up a couple hours ago. I made 3 sales. It's like, that's good. That's good. He's like, how much you put it up there for? I said, $97. He said, do me a favor, take that down. I was like, what? He said, take it down. And he's like, you need to put it up there for $500. It's like, what? It's like, man, I wouldn't even pay $500 for this. Like, no, I can't do it. And we went back and forth, and he ended up saying, like, if you don't put this up there for 500, or, for at least halfway in, about 300, I'll never work with you again. So I put it up there for $297. I had 26 people sign up over the next day. And I got so nervous about it that I took it down so no one else could register for it, because I had never made that much money in 2 days in my life. I made over $6,000. And I got imposter syndrome. I was like, what if they don't like it? What if they ask for their money back? So I took it down. And
it can be scary in the beginning when you're launching out, because there's so much uncertainty.
It was a lot of uncertainty because I was just hoping to make a few extra $100. I had already kind of achieved that. And I never thought that someone would pay that much for information. So people took it. They loved the course. I taught it over a day and a half, and, it ended up being good. And for the next 6 months, I taught that course live every single month. And I was averaging about $5,000 to $7,000 doing that course, but I was keeping it around 20 people, but more people wanted to sign up. And so once I got into it, man, I just started sharing my story, sharing what I did and how I fixed me and my wife's credit. People started asking me, do you have a credit course? So then I created that. And then I started talking about how I invested into dividend stocks and different things like that. Do you have a course on that? And then once I started building these courses, people were buying them. And I'm like, yo, this is something. I got something here. And I got really addicted to learning more. So even though there were people that were buying my course and I was doing really well, I was investing in more courses and coaching to do better. And then now here we are 6 years later, and now I'm the person that people come to for that. But it just started with me buying a $67 WordPress course on a forum from a stranger. Didn't know any of these people on this website. That literally changed everything for me.
It's interesting. There's a lot to take from that. I think that one of the most important things is you're willing to do something, and that allows a lot of things, because you're doing something Periscope, something that was like progressive, something you didn't know was going to make money or not make money. And from there, different opportunities came. And then people started coming to you and they started asking you questions about how you were doing different things or making money. And so like the key is just action, doing things, creating things, putting things out there, and then things are going to start flowing for you and flowing to you. But what also was interesting is a big part of I think the secret of being a course creator is also being like a dope person of value, because they can come to you for a lot of different reasons. They're coming to you for credit. They're coming to you for investing. They're coming to you for building a business. And these are all just things that people can find benefit from, but you were doing them to add value to yourself. And so it's like the very first step in being that course creator is to consume information and consume knowledge and learn these things that you can then go and help other people who might not either have the time or might not have done the work or whatever that might be. What is one thing that you didn't expect that happened through this experience?
I didn't expect to ever go full time in it. I thought this was always going to be I had a side hustle mentality for so long because all I was taught growing up was just to survive. So I just looked at making this extra money, even though it was more than what I was making in my 9-to-5. I still had my 9-to-5 on a pedestal for like probably 6 years long. I'd say at least 3 years longer than I should have, just because I put the $3,500 a month that I was making in my 9-to-5 more at higher value than the $7,000-8,000 I was making on the side. Because
why do we do that?
I think what it is this, it's a form of imposter syndrome, but I think it's a different word for it. I just don't know what it is. I think we don't believe we can sustain that, and we think it's just a bonus or a benefit of what we have. I think we look at our jobs as really the safety net, and the income that we make is just temporary.
Yeah.
And like I said, I stayed in my job probably, I know, at least 2 years, maybe 3 longer than I should have. Because I was making more money year in and year out from that than I was my other thing, but I kept hitting a ceiling. So when I finally left, well, when the pandemic came, that's when we're all back home. I didn't have to go in the office. I had all these hours available. And I went from being $150,000, $160,000 a year entrepreneur to over 500,000. And I said, okay, George, it's time to go.
That's different.
It's time to go. You know what I'm saying? Because now I saw firsthand, like, okay, you don't have to report to work now. Everybody's at home. You get all this time during the day, and look what you did. You literally tripled your income in like 9 months in 2020. It wasn't even it was ridiculous. It was stupid. And so 2021, it was like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is it. And or excuse me, into 2020. And so that's the thing. I think the reason that we do it, man, is because a lot of us have in our DNA to just work, do the right thing until the next best thing comes along. If a job's going to pay you 50 cents more, go there. They're going to give you $1.50 more, leave and don't even give a notice. Like we think in pennies, we think in dollars.
That's so true.
And the people that are giving us those, they literally think in like bulks of money, like millions of dollars. And we're just thinking of, if I work this many hours, my paycheck will be this. And these guys are thinking, if I hire 10 people to do these jobs, I could quadruple what my revenue is for my business. Yeah. And when you start thinking like a businessman or woman or an employer, instead of an actual employee, your whole mindset changes. Because an employee thinks in 2-week increments. A businessman thinks in 2-3 year increments. We think about, here's what Q3 is going to look like. I'm going to build this for the rest of the year, but in Q3, I'm going to shift things up. I'm going to do this. All we're thinking about is, man, if I could just stay an extra 2 hours a day for this next pay period, I could literally get 20 hours of overtime at $30 an hour. That's $600 or whatever the number is, right? So after taxes, I'd probably bring home an extra $400. That's how we think. Mm-hmm. So that's what we put our value on. And then when we get that extra money, instead of figuring out like what we can do to make more money, we just think we spend it on the things that we kind of want. And then we're back at square one on Monday trying to figure out how can we get 20 hours because that check was really good. And that's what keeps us in this continuous cycle. And so for me, I think what I had to do was I had to get to a point to where, George, don't spend this money anymore on yourself. Because I was making all that money. So we were going on vacations, we were buying cars, we were doing all this stuff. And I said, don't spend no money on yourself, put it back in the business. And that's when I got approached by someone on Instagram about running ads for me. And that changed everything for me. And then now I'm addicted to where my accountant's like, yo, you gotta bump up your payroll or something, because you're putting way too much. You just got all this money sitting here is doing nothing for you. You need to pay yourself some more. You need to put some more. But right now, you're just putting all your money in your business. You're putting 95% of your money in your business, and you need to enjoy some of your money. I just got addicted to it because I see the results. Yeah. So I think that's what it is, man. We just got to get out of that employer every 2 week mentality.
So you said somebody asked you to run ads for them, and it changed everything for you. What did you mean by that?
No, someone asked me, could they run ads for me? They were like, yo, we see you're killing it and you should really invest in Facebook ads. We could 3x your income. And, I got on a Zoom call with them, listened to what they had to say, and everything they were saying sounded good. And I said, okay, let's start with 1,500. And, I paid them their fee to do it. And we had this first webinar, and it was stupid how much we did. We did over 20 some odd $1,000 in that webinar. And then he's like, okay, the next one that we do, we're going to write a sequence so we can capture some people who don't buy it. And the next one we did like 48,000. I'm like, what is going on? Because I'm used to doing like 8 to 10 by myself. Now I'm doing $20,000 to $40,000 a weekend, and it just changed everything for me. I was like, man, invest back into your business, continue to keep learning this stuff. But I think one of the things that really helped me a lot to become more versatile in what I am was every person that I was hiring to do stuff, like the ads person and the funnels person, I started learning it myself because I started seeing them kind of dip off. because we're having so much success. I'm paying them so much money. They're not meeting some of their numbers, or they're not showing up for meetings, or they're not showing up. Some of them weren't showing up for the webinar. So I'm having to, the stuff that they're doing, I'm having to do. So I'm like, I need to learn this, because I can't be stuck and someone else says, yeah, we can run your ads for you, which happened to me. And I lost $25,000 in that situation because the person didn't know what they were doing, even though they said they could, because I got rid of the person that wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. So, you know, that's what I really learned from that, man, was just investing back into your business, but most importantly, investing back into you, buying these funnel courses and attending other people's webinars and getting coaching, learning how to do that. It helped my business, man, just go to the next level. And that's why I'm just a continuous student whenever it comes to this information.
Yeah. So you are running ads to a webinar, not to a product.
No, webinar.
Why?
That's, you know, I was doing webinars before that, but they were all paid. So when they kind of brought this idea to me, like, let's do a free webinar, we're going to, you know, put in, like, they told it the first time, they're like, do $3,000. I was like, whoa. You want me to put $3,000 and you want me to do a free webinar? Yeah. I said, that don't even sound appealing to me. How do I make money from that? They're like, well, you'll just teach for an hour and then you'll pitch your course at the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, so what, am I supposed to teach my course and then pitch the course? And no, it's not how that works. And so he started sending me all these YouTube videos. Watch this video. So I watched this Russell Brunson video. Okay, go watch this one. So I watched this Dan Kennedy video. And I'm like, I was ready to buy their stuff after watching. It was just YouTube video. I was like, that was freaking amazing. And so once I just like deep dove into learning how to like perform a webinar. And I said, okay, I can't do 3 because I don't know you guys. We don't know what this is. So I was like, I'll meet you halfway. Let's do 15. So we did 1,500. It literally worked. And I became addicted to webinars at that point. And everything, like I said, in my business changed at that point, because now I was able to increase the value of my products, because when you're doing a webinar, you usually want to have somewhat of a mid to higher ticket product. But then I was also able to create like all these other different smaller products, because that's where your upsells and stuff come in. Yeah. So it changed everything for my business, because I learned a whole nother dynamic of the whole course creation and online business that I didn't know before.
Yeah. Am I allowed to ask you what the strategy for the webinar is, where you know that you have the information you want to sell, but then you have a webinar? What exactly are you talking about in that webinar that doesn't necessarily give away the entire thing you're trying to sell at the end?
Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely. So the way that you do it, or at least that I do it now, is you basically, the job of your webinar is to touch on a couple of points from your course that people need to, that you kind of demystify. So let's say that, you know, people are, let's just use options, for example, right? You know, you're selling an options course. And so one of the things is, you know, how to prevent your losses. And, you know, one of the topics you might cover is how to make the most money from an options trade. And what your job in that particular module or that particular segment of the webinar is to demystify how you can lose all your money if you invest in a stock and it goes south. And the option, you know, that's what everybody says, oh, you'll lose everything. No, you'll lose what you have invested into it, not what's in your portfolio, right? So that's a demystifier. So you talk about it, but then and you basically, what you call is you address that limiting belief. Like, what is something that people have a limiting belief about what you're teaching?
Oh man, that's
losing all their money,
right? That's so good.
Yeah. So you address that limiting belief. And then what I do is, once I address it, then I rebuild them. So then I'm like, okay, now here's what happens when it does go the right way. Because, you know, most people, they always think, what if I lose all my money? What if this doesn't work? No one ever talks about what will happen if it does work. So you got to address that pain point first, which is, what happens if I lose all my money? Well, here's how you're not going to lose all your money. Now that we've addressed that limiting belief, let me increase your belief. Here's what happens here's what you can make if this does go right. Let's say this only goes up 10%. This is what this could look like. And then you might show them a screenshot of a trade that was similar to that, you know, and then you give them a couple of points. So what you got to do is and then you take something from your course. You got to make sure that you look at the right chart. You got to make sure that your indicators are pointing that you've reached that this stock has reached this support level. and it's not trading at its ceiling. And then number three is you got to make sure that you're looking at that the income statement and all this, that their financials are going to hit, potentially getting them some revenue. If those things hit, this price will go up in stock. Oh, that's so good. But guess what? We didn't tell them how to look at the stock, how to identify the support levels, how to do that. So what you're doing is you're addressing the limiting belief. You are building back up their belief system, and you're telling them what they need to do. So now that we've done that in that first one, my next one would be explaining why you should do this, right? So I talk about why you should invest into options instead of buying regular stocks. Then I hit the limiting beliefs about buying options and how they're so risky. And then I rebuild them by saying, this is all you need to do a good options trade. You need to buy good. You need to make sure you choose the right expiration date to give yourself enough time to get out of the deal before you lose too much money. And I don't want to get too much of it, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you just hit those beliefs. Good. And then once you get over it, then you ask a question. Then you say, what will life look like if you were able to do what we talked about today? People start commenting. So who's ready to go to the next level and learn more about options? For me. Okay, introducing, boom. And then now you go through your offer process. And that's how you do it.
Oh man. You don't have a course for this. You have coaching for this.
No, I do have a course. My Course to Profits training goes over all of that. Teach you how to build the course, how to do the webinars, how to build out the webinars, I didn't know that. The whole thing. Yeah.
All right. So link in the show notes for that, you guys. Man, that was good. My question, man, I have a question is, what is a common myth about your industry that people have? Like, what is something that people have that you don't really think is necessarily true in terms of like course creators?
The biggest myth is that it's saturated, and it's not. So Thinkific, Teachable, and Kajabi are the three biggest course hosting platforms out there, next to Gumroad, Podia, Mighty Networks, and some of the other ones. Thinkific, Teachable, and Kajabi collectively have less than 5 million paid creators. Okay. But between the three of them, they have over 500 million students. So out of 5 million creators, collectively, they have over 500 million students that have bought their courses. Teachable alone generated over $1 billion last year in course creation revenue. Thinkific generated just under $1 billion, and Kajabi was like 1.3 billion. So over $3 billion just on the three biggest platforms was generated between 5 million course subscribers that had over 500 million students. So what people have to understand is that course creation is not saturated. What's saturated is the consumer level. There's plenty of people at the bottom consuming, but there's not enough people at the top producing. We need more course creators because, believe it or not, there's some people that still don't know course creation even exists. There's people that don't even know that they don't even know like what options trading is. They think it's just buying stocks. People don't even know there's an ETF. People don't know you can fix your own credit. And so I'm saying all this because we feel that it's a saturated market, but what we got to understand, there's consumers that don't even believe these markets exist. They don't believe you can fix your own credit. It's not they don't believe it. They don't even know you can. They don't even know that you can buy more than just an Apple stock. Like you can buy an Apple option. You can buy an ETF that Apple, Microsoft, and all these other things are in. They don't know that kind of stuff exists. Why? Because there's not enough course creators. There's not enough people sharing it. So because there's not enough people sharing it, there's not enough people that understand that it's available. So until we get people to understand that the only market that's saturated is the consumer level, right? But the capitalist level, the producer level, there's not enough of us. This is why you're seeing so many rappers become billionaires, because there's so much money to be made because there's not enough production. So there wasn't enough shoe companies. So Yeezys right now, he became a billionaire from his shoes. Why? Some people are tired of Nikes and
it's a bar.
Reebok and Adidas. There's not enough shoe companies.
Most people think that it's
designer now.
Most people think it's the opposite. They think that there's too many producers and not enough consumers, but that doesn't even make sense mathematically.
Let me tell you why they think that. Because all they follow is the producers. So the thing is that because all you follow is the producers, you think that's all that's out there. So you got a person that follows 1,500 people on Instagram and 1,490 of them have courses. So they think everybody has a course.
That's so true.
But there's a billion people on Instagram. There's 700 million on TikTok. But because you follow 1,400, you think everybody has a course. No, everybody you follow has one, but you don't follow everybody on the platform.
That's so true.
So that's why I get up every day and I'm confident and you're confident. You just bought a building. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the heck? Like, we're confident enough to make the moves that we're making because we know there's more producing that we need to do, because we know there's more consumers that need what we have. And you got a lot of consumers at the bottom that are scared to move up to the top because they think where I'm at, it's not saturated, but where everybody else is. And so here's what you got to understand. The reason that most people who live paycheck to paycheck and are always on edge, always got a bad attitude and all this other stuff is because they're hot. Why? Because they're sweating, because there's so much, it's congested down there. It's saturated. So you're sweating because you don't have no room. You don't know where to go. But up at the top, people are tripping, like they're always talking about designer. They're always going on vacations. They're always, having masterminds and all this other stuff. We're enjoying ourselves. There's so much room at the top. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much room at the top. We're collaborating together. I know you and Andre are about to do the mastermind in Florida. We're enjoying life because there's more room up here. We couldn't breathe down here because we're just trying to survive for 2 more weeks. Up here, we're talking about what we're doing in 2024. So until people get to realize that it was reversed, there's not enough creators at the top, but there's too many consumers at the bottom. Till you can get that concept, you're going to have a hard time getting out.
Wow. What are some like top apps that you recommend to use for course creators, like apps, automations, those kind of things?
Zapier is my number one app because it just ties into everything and you can integrate so much, especially if you're a solopreneur, because there's so much that you have to do on your own. But if you can set up your Zaps to work for you, it's almost like having an assistant when you can't afford one, a technical assistant, so to speak. So I would say Zapier there, number one. Number two, I think it's very important to use your email automation. I think if I was just starting out again, I would write as many emails as I could over a weekend or even every weekend for a month and have like a 90-day automation that's set up that I know my emails are going to go out every day, 5 days or 3 days a week for 90 full days. So I could nurture my audience. I could give them some value. I'm selling my courses in between and I got some room to breathe. Because in that 90 days, that sequence might net me enough money to where I can go and hire a copywriter to write my emails for the rest of the year. I could go and hire a technical person to build out my funnel so that I can even bring even more people into it because I got a place that's going to be selling it all the time, 24/7. So I would say, Zapier, number one. I would get a really good email marketing platform. I'm not a big fan of MailChimp, even though it's been around as the OG. I think if you're starting out, MailerLite's really good because it's really basic, especially if you're not techie. But if you are, me personally, I love GetResponse because they got great support 24/7 and they can go into it. And I think the third thing that I would say that would be really good is, even though I'm big on telling people ClickFunnels is not a funnel, it's still a very, very good tool. Those would be my 3 tools that I would tell people to get their hands on to get to the next level.
Wow. What is the biggest challenge that you're facing in this moment in your career?
Oh, man, growth. Right now, the biggest challenge is I'm growing so fast, and I'm just trying to keep up. I've got a staff now of 4 people, and we're about to hire 2 more. Freelance 2 more. We don't have any W-2s. I'm the only W-2 on my business, but it's just keeping up with the growth, man. Like, you show up and every time you show up, more people show up. Like, I see, you understand what I'm saying? I see you doing the TikToks and I started doing them. I'm like, I got to do them, but now I'm getting more people showing up. You're getting more DMs. When you show up, the people will show up in droves. So for me, the hardest challenge I have right now, and it's a good challenge, is keeping up with the growth. Because, man, it's like every time I feel like I'm in a good space to where I can, like, let me sit down and work out a strategy for my business and really get this thing to the next level, I get like 4 or 5 new coaching clients. I get, invited to come speak at different events. And so I don't have that time to do it anymore because I'm prepping now. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just keeping up with the growth, man. That's the biggest thing. But, you know, we're just going to keep hiring, keep building our team, keep expanding. And that's how we're going to continue to get this. I'm not afraid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what it's like to be dependent on a check every 2 weeks. And I know what it's like to now be able to say, you know, if I don't make another dollar for 9 months, I'm good from just my payroll account.
Isn't that crazy?
You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but what's the chances of,
that's the crazy part about it, is like to have the money, to know that you don't need the money, but still show up and make money. Like, that's the luxury. That's what's so cool about it to me, is like, okay, I know I'm okay, but I still got to wake up and go get it. It's like, you can never really lose that way, because it's not like we're just taking a vacation and chilling, doing nothing. It's a different kind of living. I don't know too many people who have had this luxury to work because they want to work, but still go hard.
I became, you know, I'm a big believer in this. I'll tell anybody, you know, go to therapy, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, and address the things that you need to address. And my therapist told me something. He challenged me for something this year, actually. He said, George, I want you to find a hobby. He said, all you do is work and grind. You talk about all these things that you got. You know, you're buying this real estate, you're doing this. He's like, what do you do in your free time? I was like, well, I read, and you know what I'm saying, and research deals, and I play with my son. He's like, no, but what do you do in your free time? Like, what do you do for you? I had to sit there and think about it. I was like, no. He's like, you just bought your wife her dream car. You know, you went and did this for your son. He goes to a great school, a private school. You're just constantly working, but you have all this reserves, you have all this cash, and you're saying that your biggest problem is you're trying to figure out where to put your cash at. Why don't you do something for yourself? Start spending some of it. You know, that's what you need to do. And I was like, man, I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people think when you make a lot of money that you just chill, and that when you have a business, you just let everybody else do the work. Like, no, like, we're grinding. I see where you're at. You're at your office. You know what I'm saying? I'm in mine. Like, this is a virtual backdrop, but I'm in mine. And it's what we love to do, because we remember what it's like to work hard doing something we thought we loved to do, but we weren't passionate about doing. But we also saw what it was like for it to be taken away from us at a time to where we actually did enjoy it. That's the crazy thing about it. Like, when my job was taken away from me, I actually enjoyed it and I wanted to do better at it. And then they took it away from me, and they took my income, my benefits, my support system, and everything else. As a man, and now as a father and a husband, I can't ever let that happen again. So what I did was I channeled that fear of leaving a job with the fear of failing in business or leaving a business. And so now it's become a good leverager, because now I go hard, and doesn't matter when I'm making 30, 40, $50,000 a week. It doesn't matter, because I'm just thinking about the next thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't get comfortable with that. And I think that's healthy, because if you get comfortable in it, that's when the money starts running out. You start doing some stupid things. Like, you start offering stuff you shouldn't be offering. You start over promising because you're just trying to get a sale, because now you're turned your business into a big hustle, and you're just trying to make it. But for me, it's not like that. Like, I can make $20,000 a day and it doesn't affect me. I'm just like, I need to worry about the sequence that goes out tomorrow. I need to do my reel for tomorrow, all that other kind of stuff. I work Monday through Friday like the next man, but I work for myself.
I can definitely relate to the feeling of the fear of going out of business, replacing the fear of losing a job. I could really think that, because I was it's too lovely, man. Being in a place that you control, that you dictate, showing up when you want to. And I say, like, shut up when you want to, as in like, oh, I'm just never going to show up. I'm going to walk in later, whatever. But it's just different, man. I tell people that, like, before I had my own, I never had the luxury of working in the same zip code. Like, I literally drive down the street to the office. Like, that's plush. Like, there's so many different benefits that come just from doing this, that I can't give it up. So I was going to ask you, because I'm really interested in the coaching business, but I'm curious how you price it, because I've done something in the past where I had this this one-time fee. People paid it, but then I had to show up every single week indefinitely, and it did not work out. So I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you structure? Do you do it on like a monthly amount? Do you do it on like a one-time amount? How do you structure that pricing?
So the way that I structure my pricing now, outside of having like outside of having a package, is I structure it in packages, and we have an application system where people put in what they're needing help with, what they're wanting me to do, and all those things, right? So then I'll sit down, we'll have a consultation call with them, and we map it out. The way that I do it is I have my structure, I have it right here on my board, 4, 6, and 8. I don't like to go no farther than 8 weeks. I really don't want to work with someone for 12 weeks. You know what I'm saying? But I know what I got to cover in those 4, 6, or 8 weeks. So I've got everything mapped out and planned for what I do for each one. And then I'll charge a fee for that package. Half is due up front, then half is due upon us completing. And most people don't have a problem paying theirs. I haven't had a problem with anybody paying their last fee, because they always win. You know what I'm saying? Like they get something from it. So they're more than happy to do it, but I also have an application process. Before, the way I used to do it was I just had a call where you could book a 60-minute or a 30-minute call. And those were cool, but you had people that were getting on there, even though I've changed my business model, I don't offer all those things I used to offer. They wanted to learn about credit in a 30-minute set. They wanted to learn about credit, real estate, and how to build a course in a 30-minute session. You know what I'm saying? And in a 60-minute session, they want to know how to invest in the real estate, how to grow their social media, how to start a business, how to get their LLC, how to do all this stuff in a 60-minute session. I'm like, this isn't sustainable. Like, you can't even give somebody that. And so, then you're at 60 minutes and they're like, we still haven't talked about investing yet. We just talked about credit. We talked about real estate, but I also put down, I want to learn about investing. Can you go over that for a little bit? And then you go another 30 minutes and you're like, damn, so I kind of went away with those. I get a lot of requests for them, so I might do them again, but I'm gonna do it like a doctor does. I'm gonna say, you get one thing you get to discuss. What is that one thing? And that's all we're gonna discuss. I think it's just sitting down and having your packages there and understanding what you want to cover with your client. So we're actually working. This is actually breaking news. I'm putting it right here on your podcast. We're actually finalizing our own certification program for coaches. So we're going to actually start certifying coaches. We just did all the paperwork, did everything. And we're going to show them how to structure their packages, how to structure a session, the difference between a coaching session and a strategy session, because some people hire coaches and they're really hiring they really need a strategist, and a coach is there to really kind of coach you to where you're trying to go, and a strategist is telling you what to do to get to where you want to go. So really just kind of cleaning that space of it up. But yeah, the biggest thing for me that helps a lot is having a package, have half due up front, and then have half due upon the completion of the coaching.
I like it. And also having it a set amount of weeks, not just indefinite access to you.
Don't do that. Yeah. That'll drain you, because man, like it just, you become at some point you become where you're just like, I don't even want to do this no more. When you're doing the indefinite thing, I tried that years ago, and that ain't gonna work. So it's best to have a cap and find out how long you want to work with someone. I've had people like, you need to look at doing a 12-month coaching program. I don't know how some of these people do those 12-month programs. I ain't doing it. I can give you 8 weeks, fam. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to take a break for a couple of weeks. I have a lot of people that come back like, hey, can we extend it? I'm like, yeah, but we're taking a break for 2 weeks. And I chill for 2 weeks from coaching to kind of reset, because it takes a lot out of you. And then I get back on the horn. So
it's hard. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, it does.
Before I get to the wrap-up question, I have a question, and it's, what is your favorite productivity hack?
So mine is my whiteboard. I write down all my stuff that I need to do. So the night before, I'm going over what I need to cover for tomorrow. What things I want to do. Do I want to outline this course? Do I want to work on this person's strategy? What do I want to cover tomorrow? And I usually figure out, do I need to allot 1, 2, or 3 hours to each thing, so I make sure I'm not overworking myself. And I put it in order of what I want to cover. And when I come into my office, I start with the first thing, and I don't move to the next one until I check it off my whiteboard. Once it's checked off, then I go to the next one. And then once I look back, all my checks are done. I'm looking down, I'm like, oh, it's 3 o'clock. Oh, it's 2 o'clock. Oh, it's 5 o'clock, whatever. Then I move on with my day. So the biggest thing for me to stay productive is writing it down on my whiteboard and knowing which ones I'm doing in order, and just not moving on the next one until I get through with the first one.
I like it. Dope conversation. I have a few wrap-up questions. We're going to hit them rapid fire. The first one is, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth means to me being able to know that money is going to be coming, whether I make another dollar in the short term or not. So having, whether it's properties or digital products, knowing that regardless of if I make another dollar from coaching, another dollar from needing a job, that I know I've got money coming in from my investments, my dividends, whatever it is, I know that money's coming regardless of how people feel they need to make money day to day.
It's a bar, because a lot of times I look at the account balances and I'm like, cool, the money's there, but I forget that the dividends are coming, that the income is coming, and that's a bar. That's a bar. New money you didn't have to work for.
That's right. That's right. It's
what
coming.
What sets apart successful course creators from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
The biggest thing for successful course creators is they won't give up if the first one doesn't do right. We've all released courses and products that flopped. You know what I'm saying? Like, that flopped. The difference between someone that does and someone that doesn't is that we figure out, okay, what does my audience want? Because maybe I released something that I thought they wanted because I felt it's something they needed, but it's not something they wanted. And so we figure it out. That's the difference. We figure it out and we adjust. Someone that's not successful, they just say it doesn't work. It was a scam. And they go back to doing what the real scam is, working for 30, 40 years to make 25 to 30% of what they make in their full-time job in retirement and Social Security. So the thing is, millions of people don't realize that they're working a scam. And the people that realize that they were working the scam continue to figure it out because they don't want to go back to doing the scam. That's the difference.
What's an underrated tool that is indispensable for your job?
Ooh, an underrated tool that's indispensable. An underrated tool.
That's not the whiteboard. Because it seems like
an underrated tool that's indispensable. And
what's an indispensable tool that you can't do without?
I would say Zapier. Zapier is my, if we're talking about system tools, it's got to be Zapier because I do so much in it. So that's probably one of the most indispensable tools that I have. Outside of that, it's my laptop. It's PowerPoint in the webcam that's built in. Because as long as I got a laptop that's got PowerPoint and it's got a webcam, I'll go into a Starbucks and sit there all day and flesh out what I need to flesh out and stay on their internet. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make these videos. I'm going to make these slides, and I'm going to make it happen. So as long that's probably my most indispensable tool, a laptop that has a webcam and PowerPoint. As long as I got those two things, I'm good.
What's your favorite business or investing book?
My favorite business book would probably be What Would the Rockefellers Do? This is probably my number one investment book. Let me just go ahead and turn this off. What Would the Rockefellers Do? By Grant Gunderson. Okay. What this book talks about is how John D. Rockefeller built his empire, but how he built the back office through this insurance premium that basically allowed him to be the bank of his whole business for generations. And they still live off that money. They get their loans through their own bank. They get their home loans, their auto loans, everything through this set aside. And it just talks about how he built it. And it's basically how the wealthy get and stay that way and how you could do it too. One of my favorite books. So I would say, What Would the Rockefellers Do? And I'd say another one when it comes to generational wealth would be The Jewish Phenomenon by Steven Silberger. Those are my two favorite books all time.
It's one of my favorite books. As you're saying that, I'm like, man, you could legit acquire and I gotta read that book.
Yeah.
I gotta read that book.
Yeah.
All right. Man. Before I ask you where they can find you, I want to know, because you're doing so many great things, where do you see your business in the next 5 years?
So it's funny. I just had a mapping session with a coach to go over this. And what I'm doing is I'm streamlining my whole business right now for the next 5 years. So all those other courses, the e-commerce, all that stuff. Matter of fact, I just posted an email today. I'm going to be posting it pretty soon that all these other courses are going away. So we're just going to get them out of them. We're going to get, have a sale on them. My business, the way I see it now, we're going to streamline it to where we take people through a journey. I plan to bring on more coaches, bring on more course creators, and build like my own platform and academy, and make a platform to where people can host their stuff. They can have it, but we're almost like kind of like what if you look at what's the leadership coach's name? I'm looking at one of his books. His name is John Maxwell. So having my own institute similar to that, to where coaches are training other coaches, strategists are training other strategists. We've got people that are, showing people how to run their businesses, how to scale, basically taking my formula and multiplying that out, having people sign agreements and different things, and just really maximizing, like Hulk, maximizing my influence to where I can bring in enough of that traffic and have people on staff that can actually do the work. And the only time they'll actually see me or get that, that interaction with me, like a lot of people can right now, is you got to come to an event for, $50K, $25K, something like that. And it might even be overseas. And we're going to get down to some nitty gritty, but you're already doing the work. So that's my overall vision for this, is actually building my own empire, both international and domestic.
So that is dope, man. Make sure you guys follow this brother. He is smart, like really smart. It's a lot of people doing things and creating things, but this brother is smart and he's creating things. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you? And where can they support what you have going on?
Yeah, man. So you could definitely, follow me on Instagram or Clubhouse, TikTok now at Mr. Monetize Everything. Those are the three platforms that I frequent the most. At some point, we plan to throw up YouTube as well. We plan to do that probably in the towards the middle or end of Q2. So we're working on building something like that up. But those are the three platforms you can find me on. All of those platforms have my link in bio as well. I'm also on Twitter. I'm starting to really love Twitter, man. But I'm also on Twitter as well. And my link in my bio has all my information on how you can connect or get some of my products or connect with me, or whatever that looks like.
Dope, man. I can't wait to chop this up into some reels, because when you started talking about signing the checks, I was like, sheesh. And that's a reel right there. So reels coming soon, TikTok's coming soon. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Thank you for the people watching on the live stream. That means a lot, because they're trying to build up that whole side of the business and get you guys some live stream, continue to pump up the YouTube. Of course, the podcast is flying, both the visual version and the audio. So shout out to you guys for being subscribers and being supporters for the long haul, because we've been doing this for a while. And we have a lot of really loyal people who have been rocking with us for years. You guys are going to get a ton of value out of this episode. Make sure you take notes, and don't just take the notes, apply the notes, and also reach out to this brother, because I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a while, and that course that he has, I need to get that course, because there's things that I'm not even doing that if I did do, I could take this business to a whole another level. So make sure you guys check out his course. We'll have the link for that in the show notes. And that's it. That's all I got for y'all today. I don't know the episode. I don't really number the episodes anymore, but this is episode George Pitts, Mr. Monetize Everything, and we are out. Yeah, I stopped numbering those episodes.
Yeah, you lose count after a while.
You do. And then like if I batch them out, like I just try to like just do them do a bunch of interviews without even worry about the number, because like sometimes I used to announce the episode number at the beginning, and the way I do it now, I'll just lose track. I'll be all over the place. So it's easier just to